There is a woman the Queen Mother described in words she rarely used for anyone. So shrewd, so kind, and so amusingly unkind, so sharp, such fun, so naughty, altogether a real person, a character, utterly Mrs. Ronald Greville. The Queen Mother clearly loved this woman, genuinely loved her. And yet if you stopped 100 people on the street today and asked them who Margaret Greville was, almost none of them could tell you. And here is what makes that extraordinary. Her jewels have appeared in almost every royal decade from the 1920s to now. They have been on the heads of queens. They have blazed under the lights of state banquets on 4 continents. They were on Princess Eugenie's wedding day in 2018. They are on Queen Camilla today. Her name was Margaret Greville. She began life as a brewer's illegitimate daughter. She ended it by sending a box of diamonds and emeralds to Buckingham Palace to be worn by queens. This is how she did it. On the 20th of December 1863, a child was born in London. Her birth certificate named her parents as Helen Anderson, a cook, and William Murray Anderson, a porter at McEwan's brewery. It was a tidy, unremarkable entry, except that it was a lie. The biological father was William McEwan himself, the owner of the brewery, a man who would go on to become a multi-millionaire and a Member of Parliament for Edinburgh Central. Helen Anderson was his employee. She was already married, and so a porter who shared her surname was placed on the certificate as a convenient fiction, a piece of social camouflage designed to protect a powerful man from the consequences of his own choices. Margaret entered the world as a problem to be concealed, not a daughter to be presented. William Anderson died in 1885. Only then did McEwan marry Helen, when Margaret was 21 years old. That marriage, quiet and late, did something significant. It effectively legitimized Margaret. It confirmed what everyone in certain circles already suspected, that she was McEwan's sole heir. No siblings to divide the fortune, no competing claims. Just Margaret, and an immense amount of money. She grew up knowing that her position in the world rested on a secret, that the comfort surrounding her had been purchased in part by her own concealment. That is not a small thing to carry, and it shaped everything that came after. In 1891, Margaret Anderson married Captain Ronald Greville. He was the elder son of Algernon Greville, 2nd Baron Greville, and Lady Violet Graham. He was embedded in the Marlborough House set, the social world that orbited the future King Edward VII. He was, in short, exactly the kind of man whose name opened doors that money alone could not. Her wedding portrait, painted by Carolus Duran and now hanging at Polesden Lacy, shows her already styled as the Honourable Mrs. Ronald Greville. The transformation is visible in the brushwork. Brewery money had become titled respectability. Ronald pursued a political career, serving as MP for East Bradford. Margaret moved through Mayfair drawing rooms where royals and cabinet ministers sat at the same table. She was learning the grammar of a world she had not been born into, and she was learning it fast. She was now Mrs. Ronnie Greville. But she was still, in some essential way, making herself up as she went. Ronald died in 1908, leaving her a childless widow in her mid-40s. Her father died in 1913, leaving her his fortune and his art collections. Rather than retreat, she accelerated. The stage she had been building was about to open. In 1906, as Ronald retired from Parliament, William McEwan purchased Polesden Lacy in Surrey for the couple. The estate was bought in Margaret's sole name. She immediately set about remodelling it, and she did not hire modest architects. She hired Mewes and Davis, the same firm responsible for the Ritz. The intention was stated plainly. Margaret wanted, in her own words, a room she could entertain Maharajas in. That is not the ambition of a woman who has arrived. That is the ambition of a woman who intends to keep arriving indefinitely at higher and higher tables. The Gold Saloon was created for spectacle. The picture corridors were hung with paintings collected by McEwen and Margaret herself. The tea rooms and smoking rooms were designed for movement, for conversation, for the kind of gossip that shapes careers and reputations. Every room was a set, every weekend was a performance, and Margaret was always the director. Her first major house party, in June 1909, had Edward VII as guest of honour. The signal was immediate and unmistakable. Pollsden Lacy had entered the royal circuit. The guest list that followed over the next 3 decades ran from cabinet ministers and generals to foreign ambassadors and royal mistresses. Alice Keppel, the famous favourite of Edward VII, was among Margaret's closest friends. Margaret was, by several accounts, someone who helped provide cover for Keppel's presence in royal circles. It was a friendship built on mutual usefulness and genuine affection, the kind that flourishes in houses where discretion is the first rule of hospitality. And then, in 1923, came the moment that would prove most consequential of all. The Duke and Duchess of York, the future King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, spent their 2-week honeymoon at Polesden Lacy. The young Duchess, who would one day describe Margaret in those extraordinary words, called the house delicious. The friendship that formed there was not merely social, it became personal. It became the kind of friendship that ends with a black tin trunk delivered to Buckingham Palace. By the 1910s and 1920s, Margaret Greville was nearly 50, widowed, childless, and extraordinarily rich. She travelled widely. She compared her diamonds and emeralds to those of Indian Maharajas, not as a boast, but as a benchmark. She was commissioning at the highest level of Parisian haute joaillerie, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Her collection is estimated to have comprised at least 60 major pieces. The houses she worked with were Boucheron and Cartier. The pieces she chose were not modest. Around 1919, some French jewellery historians suggest 1921, and the royal collection records 1919, Boucheron created for her what would become the most dramatic piece in the collection, the emerald kokoshnik tiara. It is crafted in platinum, with approximately 250 carats of brilliant and rose-cut diamonds, pavé set in 5 horizontal bands, and 13 emeralds. At its centre sits a cabochon emerald of 93.70 carats, a stone of exceptional clarity, its deep bluish-green colour placing it among the finest emeralds in royal hands today. The silhouette follows the kokoshnik form imported from the Russian court, wide, halo-shaped, designed to sit low and encircle the head. Estimates of its current value range from £5 to £10 million. In 1921, Boucheron created a second tiara, the piece now known as the honeycomb tiara, using diamonds from an older tiara already in Margaret's collection. Its strict honeycomb and lozenge pattern, diamonds set in platinum in each hexagonal cell, was a statement of geometric precision. Later, Cartier would raise it further, adding triangular motifs and a single marquise-cut diamond at the apex. There were also diamond chandelier earrings in an Art Deco style. And there is a persistent tradition, explicitly unconfirmed but consistently cited, of a diamond necklace reputedly belonging to Marie Antoinette somewhere in the collection. The exact contents of the bequest remain, in the words of those who have studied it most carefully, a closely guarded secret. Each of these pieces was a deliberate act. Margaret Greville was not collecting jewels the way other women of her era collected jewels. She was constructing an argument. She was turning herself, stone by stone, from a brewer's concealed daughter into someone the world would have to reckon with. Imagine a Polesden evening in the 1930s. Queen Mary is there, with her famous eye for jewels and her equally famous willingness to acquire them. The Yorks are there, Alice Keppel is there, and at the centre of it all is Margaret Greville, in what contemporary newspaper reports describe as her empire-shaped tiara of diamonds and emeralds, a description that jewellery historians have since connected to the kokoshnik. One documented appearance places her in it at the celebrations surrounding the Duke and Duchess of Kent's wedding in 1934. Another at a concert at the Austrian legation in London in 1937, where a photograph of her wearing it survives in a German archive. She wore these pieces. They were not locked away. They were her armour for the occasions that mattered. Diplomatic evenings, royal celebrations, the moments when being seen was the entire point. And there is one thread worth following quietly here. Margaret was godmother to Rosalind Cubitt, Alice Keppel's granddaughter. Rosalind Cubitt was the mother of Camilla. The woman who today wears Margaret's honeycomb tiara as her signature piece for state occasions is the granddaughter of the woman Margaret helped protect in royal circles a century ago. That is not a coincidence. That is a very long thread. Margaret Greville died on the 15th of September 1942 at the Dorchester Hotel. She had refused to leave during the Blitz. She was buried in the grounds of Pollsden Lacy. Her will was precise and deliberate. Pollsden Lacy itself, the house, its contents, approximately 1,000 acres of land, went to the National Trust, specifically in memory of her father. William McEwen, the man who had concealed her birth and then made her his heir, was the name she chose to attach to her greatest material legacy. There is something in that worth sitting with. She also left cash legacies, £20,000 to Princess Margaret, and substantial sums to Queen Victoria Eugenie of Spain, among others. The international reach of her friendships was written into the will in pounds sterling. And then there were the jewels. All of them, the kokoshnik, the honeycomb, the earrings, the necklaces, the pieces whose provenance remains uncertain, went to Queen Elizabeth, the future Queen Mother. The stated purpose, echoed in later accounts, was that her jewels would be worn by queens. They arrived at Buckingham Palace in a black tin trunk. The image has become a stock detail in every account of the Greville bequest, and it deserves to be. There is something almost theatrical about it, this extraordinary collection of Boucheron and Cartier, of cabochon emeralds and pavé diamonds, delivered in the most utilitarian container imaginable. It is exactly the kind of detail Margaret herself would have appreciated. King George VI was uneasy, accepting a lavish private bequest in the middle of a war from a woman whose political associations in the 1930s had included attending a Nuremberg rally in 1934 and returning by contemporary accounts full of enthusiasm. This was not straightforward. Margaret Greville was not an uncomplicated figure. She was sharp and warm and generous, and in certain chapters of her life, deeply wrong. The Queen Mother waited before wearing the jewels publicly. But the letter Queen Elizabeth wrote after Margaret's death tells you something important about what the bequest actually meant. The words she used, so shrewd, so kind, and so amusingly unkind, so sharp, such fun, so naughty, are not the words of someone performing grief. They are the words of someone who genuinely misses a friend. The jewels were not just a strategic inheritance. They were an act of affection from a woman who had spent her life turning affection into architecture. The honeycomb tiara made its public debut in 1947 during the royal family's tour of South Africa, worn in its original lower form. After Cartier's alterations in 1953, the triangular motifs, the additional round diamonds from a dismantled brooch, the marquise at the apex, it became something else entirely. Taller, more commanding, more unmistakably hers. For the next 5 decades, it was the Queen Mother's signature piece. State banquets, gala performances, Japanese state visits, RAF anniversaries. family celebrations at Balmoral. Her final tiara appearance in 1998 was in the honeycomb. Writers who have studied the construction note that despite its imposing height and diamond content, it is relatively light, which explains why both the Queen Mother and, later, Camilla favour it for long evenings. The diamond peardrop earrings became her preferred drops after the coronation earrings passed to Queen Elizabeth II. The Greville festoon necklace became a regular companion. Margaret Greville had wanted her jewels worn by queens. The Queen, whose house she had lent for a honeymoon, was now stepping out under flashbulbs in her diamonds. The plan had worked. For 76 years after Margaret's death, the emerald kokoshnik was essentially a myth. It had disappeared so completely that most people who followed the royal collection had forgotten it existed. And then, on Princess Eugenie's wedding day in October 2018, it emerged. As the bride stepped from her car at St. George's Chapel, there it was, that 93.70 carat central emerald blazing after decades in darkness. It was the first time any member of the royal family had worn it publicly since Margaret herself. The choice was surprising to many observers who had expected the York tiara, but the effect was undeniable. A piece that had been sleeping for 3/4 of a century had found its moment. Queen Camilla's relationship with the honeycomb tiara has been, if anything, even more defining. She debuted it at a state banquet for the Brazilian president in 2006 and has since worn it for the vast majority of her tiara occasions, state openings of parliament, state banquets across 4 continents, the 2023 German state banquet as queen. She often pairs it with other Greville pieces, including a 5-strand diamond necklace from the bequest, creating an ensemble that is entirely recognizably hers and entirely recognizably Margaret's. And then, in 2025, at a diplomatic reception, Queen Camilla appeared in the emerald kokoshnik, only the second royal to wear it publicly. The stone that Margaret commissioned from Boucheron over a century ago, that sat in a black tin trunk through a world war that blazed on a bride in 2018. It was back, on the head of a queen. The Princess of Wales has been seen wearing diamond chandelier earrings connected to the Greville bequest, long Art Deco drops that trace a direct line back to the woman who commissioned them in Paris in the 1930s. Margaret Greville was born as a secret in someone else's marriage. She was placed on a birth certificate under a false name in a house where her existence was a complication to be managed. She spent the rest of her life building, with extraordinary precision and considerable nerve, a place in the world that no one could take from her. Not a title. She never held one in her own right. Not an heir. She had no children. Not even, in the end, a name that most people recognize. What she left was a trunk of jewels, placed in hands she knew the world would keep watching, and a friendship written into a will that has outlasted her by more than 80 years. The next time you see Queen Camilla at a state banquet, or a photograph of Princess Eugenie on her wedding day, look at what they're wearing. You are looking at the answer of a woman who was told from the very first document that recorded her existence that she did not quite belong. She disagreed. If this story moved you, and I think it should, a like and a subscription to the channel means more stories like this one find the people who need to hear them. There are more women like Margaret Greville in the history of these jewels. We are only just beginning.